Hey everybody, and welcome to episode 4 of The Turn. Again, I want to thank you guys for all the feedback and support on the first 3 episodes. It's been really good and encouraging, and it gives me a lot of energy. It makes me want to continue to do more like this, and I hope that I continue to add value. So in this episode, we're going to go over something called the value exchange lifecycle. This is a really big deal for me. Again, it's more philosophy on how to approach your day and your career and your life in general as a person. And I think this is going to be this one. I'll probably do one more on kind of the general overall mindset, philosophy, and approach to business. And then probably after that, we'll do a couple episodes where it's a little bit more tactical and we break down things in more detail. So with that being said, let's jump into the value exchange life cycle. So, in general terms, what I mean that is everything you do and the way that you approach your business, your life day to day, is try to provide or give out 10 times more value than you expect to get back in return. Okay? And it's not only a philanthropic thing where you can think about like just good karma or things like that. I think there's generally some of that for sure. But I do want to just talk about just the mindset of how having that mindset in general is going to equate to you being way more successful or even change your approach or investment behind how and why you do things, okay? So a good book that kind of lays this out is the book The Go-Giver. I'm sure a lot of you have read that, but if you haven't, I suggest you pick it up. It's a short read, and it has a lot of the principles and a really good story behind just giving out value. But let's approach it from a little bit more from the philanthropic side, where it's like the good karma side, and then let's break it down into more of the tactical side as terms of a method of how you do things at your work, or how you run your business. So number one, I think just approaching life in general, things can get monotonous. You run into people, you open the door for people all day long, or you just pass somebody on the road and you generally just say hi, or you say nothing, or you nod. And it's very, very easy in a world with lots of stimulation to become forgettable, right? And forgettable or meaningless experience, they're all the same thing, just forgettable experiences. And then there's certain things that you do that leave a lasting impression, on people, their energy, and their day. And I think that when someone meets somebody that's like that we call magnetic, or has someone that's energized, or someone sees someone do something that is very generous, those are the impressions, or those are those things that are very memorable, and the things you come home and tell your partner about or tell your friends about. Okay? And just like everything, it's hard when you got your own stuff going on to remind yourself to do it, but there are little things. So for example, depending on who you are and what your budget is, again, this does not require you to be a business owner. One of the things that I did, and I'm not saying you do the same thing, you can find your own version, was if I ever went to Starbucks and went through the drive-thru or went in the shop to buy something, I would always buy coffee for the 3 people behind me or the 3 cars behind me. It was just something where I know that most people approach their day, they're tired, they're getting up early, some people are grumpy, they're about to sit in traffic to get to work, they're trying to get their early coffee to wake up. And I think that when they approach the drive-thru, or they approach and just realize that someone went out of their way, some stranger doesn't know them, to get themselves a cup of coffee, aside from waking up to it and enjoying it, it's just something extra that brings up more energy, more of a smile to their face. And then again, I think it's just something that makes them want to pay it forward. I can't even begin to tell you how many times I've gone back to the same place and said, hey, you know what? We have a lot more people doing it ever since you've done it. Some of the people you bought it for will do it for someone else. So goodwill and generosity technically wants to get replicated, and people want to pay that forward. You know what I mean? One act of goodwill always inspires another. Famous quote from the movie Klaus, the Netflix animated movie, which is great. So there's that side of it, for sure, okay? which is the philanthropic side, and again, making a good impression on somebody and giving some value away. But now let's talk about things a little bit more tactically, okay? So, if you look at the mundane things that you get every day and that people do, you'll start to get numb to a lot of things. And let me give you a couple examples. I'm trying to think of like the most annoying examples, just so we can pick something very specific that we want to capitalize on. So let's talk about emails. Okay, if you're a high-end executive or high role within your organization, you're probably getting hundreds of unsolicited emails a day and advertisements a day. And if you're like me, you're just sitting there and you're just deleting all day long. Then, similarly with direct mail, we all have gotten this glossy postcards and the flyers and all that kind of stuff. And, the junk mail is what we literally call it junk mail that we get. And those type of things are associated with junk, and annoyances. So in a world, right, where you need to leverage some of those same methods in order to succeed, right? Whether you're doing an email marketing campaign to help grow your business, or you're doing some sort of direct mail campaign to advertise your business, that right there, you already, some of the things that may be holding you back from doing it is you're like, I don't want to do that. Everybody does that and it's super annoying. But it may be the only thing you can do. Cold calling may be the only thing you can do. That's annoying to a lot of people. Direct mail may be the only thing you can do. But again, you're just like, well, I'm just going to do it all and just see what sticks. And what generally people do is they decide to engage in that forum for their own communication. Call it, you do email marketing, and just say, hey, you know what, I'll get a big enough list, and I know that my return on investment is going to be really small. I'll just get a couple people. But everybody's general approach is just to cast the widest net as possible, okay, and just see what sticks. And quite frankly, that's just an approach that I personally don't agree with, okay? I still stick with my mindset of trying to give out 10 times more value out than I expect to give back, okay? Because what people generally do, even in advertising or whatever it is, hey, you, this is me, and this is all the great things that I got for you. And this crazy shiny announcement, which is either getting someone to buy your product, whether it's e-commerce or take an appointment. It's like, it's all centered around the value to you. And you can say that, yeah, if you take an appointment with me, I can help you grow your business. But the exchange is that you give them value only if they give you value first. And I think that's crazy. If you think about someone, you just got into their email for the first time and you're like, hey, you, can you take an appointment with me? Because that's really what I want. And in exchange, I'll get you value. I don't really see that happening. There's a psychologist that did a study when for a book called What Makes You Click. And there was just people out on the street asking to fill out surveys. And a lot of people were just walking by, no thank you, no thank you. But once they started giving away sodas and chips and snacks, and it's like, here you go, you guys just take it. And then asking, oh, by the way, would you mind doing the survey? More people felt inclined to do the survey and give back in that way. Because I just think people like to repay an act of kindness, right? Or a kind gesture. All right, so let's think about that. So if you don't take this approach, and let's just say you get yourself a giant list for email marketing or for direct mail, and you spend all this money, if you're doing this campaign, you got a big list, you spent this money on this huge list, and boom, you send out this campaign and see what sticks, right? Maybe you got a couple leads from it, you keep doing it over and over again. What you don't realize is that, yes, while some of the return may be immediate, because just the numbers game is a real thing and you will get some business out of it, what you don't see long term is that you're annoying a lot of people, you're reporting a lot of people as spam, it's bad reputation on your domain, and people just come across your brand and they see it as annoying versus valuable. If you're doing a big direct mail campaign, you just did this big glossy postcard or flyer that's in everybody's inbox, again, something with low value that's easy to throw away, okay? What I always like to do is take the same budget you would to cast this wide net and then do it to a concentrated, smaller number of people with the most value you can possibly give out, okay? Meaning, if it's an email and you have something of value to give out, a very important educational piece or a checklist or a guide that they can use. Typically in email campaigns, for example, you'll put that guide, people click the button to get the guide, and then they have to fill out this form on your webpage in order to get it. Again, that is very much of you give me something, then I give you. Change that. Just give it away, okay? There is nothing wrong with someone getting something very valuable from you. You may think your competitors are going to steal it or whatever else. You were there first and you gave out something of value. And if it really is valuable, people will recognize it and they'll begin to accept it. I think naturally this happens on YouTube. You know, a good reference example is like you may be at home trying to learn how to fix something. Could be, you know, some plumbing, something under the sink, just something general around the house. And you look up how to do blank. And you'll find this person that gives you really good instruction of exactly what to do. You're like, oh, cool, that was helpful. Then maybe a couple months later, you something else, you need to help somewhere else in the house, and lo and behold, you see the same content creator, the same guy giving you a different video and doing that. You're like, man, every time I get this guy's video, it's really great advice. And then what happens is then you earn a subscriber, right? You subscribe to them because you're associating that person's content with value, something that's very helpful. So, again, instead of spending money on a big list, get yourself a much smaller list when you're doing email marketing. Spend some of the rest of the money creating these really good assets that you're just going to give away to everybody. And that way, every time people come across your brand, they're like, man, every time I get an email from this person, they're just giving me all this great value and great advice. They seem like a pretty cool organization. At the time you're ready to finally either ask them for an appointment or they'll just come to you wanting to exchange and ask you more questions, and you're going to get what you want out of it. Similar with direct mail, okay? You can spend all the print and all the money and all the postage to do 10, 5,000, 10,000 direct mail pieces and all the postage around that. Or you can decide to say, hey, out of my little list here, these top 10 customers that'll really change the game for my business, I want to do something special for them. And maybe you instead of giving them this postcard, you could do something nice, or you can develop a box like this, and inside that box, it plays a video. As you can see here, there's this brochure inside. We give away books. I'm not going to do this whole unboxing thing. It's not about promoting the box, but it's about promoting this concept, right? Of how really you can become a company that adds a lot of value, okay? Narrow your scope. As that starts to pay off and the value exchange starts to come back to you, you can scale and provide value to more people. And this is a longer term, better sustainable strategy to build your own personal brand, your reputation. Whenever time someone comes across you or your company, they're just like, man, that person's a really great person. They're always helpful. They're always having really good assets or really good content or really good resources, and I really want to be a part of that. Okay? Think about that when you interact with your team, when you interact with your customers, through every interaction. We're all human and we're all going to go through the day, but if you remind yourself, just like in a loving relationship, to do something special for people now and then, you'll be surprised at the reaction that they'll have and how that comes back to you, okay? And how much value is associated with you and your company. So please go out there and maximize your value exchange, narrow your scope, and do more for less. I promise you your conversions will go up, and it's a better long-term sustainable strategy and definitely more memorable. And I promise you want to be more memorable. It works everywhere in life. Thank you so much. I really hope you enjoyed this episode. If you have any other feedback or comments, please let me know below, and I'll take that into consideration and try to do better or produce more relevant content on the next one. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.